Good morning, Valley. Let's stand to our feet and let's worship together. Our King, come let us bow at his feet. He has done great things. See what our Savior has done. See how his love overcomes. He has done great things. He has done great things.
From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With
surely your goodness will follow me all the days of my life, and I'm going to dwell in your house forever. That's a promise we have. We steep our toes in it this morning. The goodness of God. Pastor Quentin's going to speak about how that trumps everything. That wins. The goodness of God wins. I've been thinking a lot this week about the verse in Colossians where Paul says, in him, he is before all things, Jesus is, and in him all things hold together. I don't know if you, like me, have been spending some time thinking that you're holding things together. I have great news for you. The goodness of God is the nucleus of what we're doing. He's the one who holds all things together. He's the one who, when we finish our race, we'll say, you did it. You were it. Jesus, in you, that's how I can finish this thing. So this next song tells the whole gospel story. I want you to sing it with a full heart if you can this morning. And if not, we'll sing for you about the goodness of God and the pursuit of Jesus. Steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. For my life is wholly bound to His. Oh, how strange and divine! I can sing all is mine, yet not I, but through Christ.
God that we need today. Let's sing out to him. I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the ocean. I need you now to do the same thing for. Let's sing this together, church. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm calling on the God of Mary, whose favor rests upon the lonely. I know with you all things are possible. I'm calling on the God of David, who made a shepherd boy courageous. I may not face Goliath, but I've got my own giants. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm standing on your faith. You heard your children, you hear your children. Come on. You are the same God. You are the same God. You answered prayers back then, and you will answer now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You were providing it. You are providing it. You are the same God. You are the same God. You moved in power then. God move in power now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You were a healer then. You are a healer now. You are the God, that is our prayer today. We confess that we need you every hour of the day. God, we need your Spirit moving inside of us to help us to live out what you're calling us to do. We thank you for who you are. We thank you that you are good and that your mercy endures forever. And we thank you that you freely give to those who don't deserve. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Please be seated.
What does it mean to really love your neighbor? To have conversations with skeptics, doubters, and spiritual explorers? What does it mean to boldly share your faith in a culture that's often at odds with what you believe? How do we embrace the mission of Jesus right where we live? To truly do good works, be good neighbors, and share good news. At Good for All 2022, hear from inspiring speakers, experience passionate worship, engage in practical sessions on reaching the people around you. God calls us to love our neighbor. What if it's easier than you think?
Well, guys, the Good for All conference is only 3.5 weeks away. I cannot believe that is almost already here. Now, guys, like you heard, this is a national conference. So people attend this conference from all over the country that Valley Church is putting on. Now, our mission here at Valley is to mobilize everyone's God-given potential to deeply love Christ and their neighbors. And really, there is no better tool that we have than this conference to equip the body to do that alongside us, to invest in that mission with us. So it is our hope and our prayer that each and every one of you guys have the ability to attend this conference with us, to learn and to grow alongside us. Now, this is a big week for Good for All. This week is the last week to take advantage of our early bird pricing. That is $199 per ticket, and that is good until September 15th. And then after that, our pricing jumps up to our regular general admission pricing. So our hope is really that you would take advantage of that. We have a table in the atrium. If you've been thinking about attending the conference, if you've been it's kind of been on your heart of like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, I want to encourage you today, stop by the booth, ask any questions that you have, check in out there, and I really want to encourage you to attend with us. It's going to be a great time of learning and equipping, and we would love to see you there. Well, guys, if we haven't met before, my name is Summer. I'm part of the staff here at Valley, and on behalf of all of our staff, I just want to say welcome to Valley Church. We're so glad that you've joined us. We're glad to have you here worshiping with us. And as a small token of our thanks for you for being here, we have a gift for you at our guest services desk. So after this service, if you want to head on out there. It's right through these doors. Stop by. Let us know that it's your first time, or maybe it's your second or third time, but you haven't stopped by the desk to meet us. Please stop by, say hi. I'll be out there. Check in with myself or Elizabeth, and we'd really love to connect with you. Speaking of connecting, we have a card at the bottom of the worship folder that you received as you walked in the door. We would love to hear from you. We would love to learn more about you, to know that you are here with us. So I'd encourage you to fill out this card and drop it in the box as you leave. On the back of the card, you'll find our question of the week. And this one is a special one. We've been doing this a couple weeks now, but if you fill out this card, answer a couple questions about Good for All, just kind of what your awareness of Good for All is. Let us know where you are on that and drop that in there. You'll actually be entered to win a free ticket to the conference, which is pretty awesome. So I want to encourage you to do that at some point during our service and then drop those in the boxes. One last thing, guys, Alpha is back. Our new session of Alpha begins on September 19th. Guys, this is an awesome, awesome course. It's a place where you can ask questions about Christianity. You can ask the hard questions. You get a chance to explore some of the basics of our faith. And this is a spot where you or someone you know can come. If you have some questions, if you have some things that you're just kind of wondering about, you want to learn more, this is a safe spot. Or if you have someone in your life that you know has not crossed the line of faith, that they have some doubts, they have some questions, they are wondering about some things, this is a great next step for you with them to tell them about this opportunity, invite them to attend with you. Each week there's free childcare and there's a free meal. I've attended the course. These are not like your boxed lunch meals. These are really good meals. So you get an opportunity to learn about Christianity, sit around a table and just discuss whatever questions you have. It's an awesome, awesome program. So head out to our website, valley.church/alpha to learn more about it and to sign up. All right, guys, with that, I'd like everyone to stand up on your feet and say hi to somebody around you.
I was in the 5th grade at Our Lady of Greenwood School. And we had been selling candy bars as a school to raise money for the school. You know about this? All the students raising money for the school. And the cool thing was, for every candy bar you sold, you got an entry into a raffle for some amazing prizes. And the grand prize was a brand new yellow Schwinn 10-speed bicycle. And so I was pumped for this. So the fateful morning came. I was in the 5th grade, sitting in my classroom with Sister Mary Catherine, and the PA comes on. The principal, Sister James Michael, announces the winners, and she goes through all the preliminaries, and then finally the grand prize, the 10-speed bicycle. And she pulls out the name, and she says, and the winner of the Schwinn 10-speed bicycle is Quentin Steve. And guys, my head was spinning. I'm not kidding. I said, is this a dream? But it was real. I was a poor kid. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a bike. I went down to the office. I got my brand new 10-speed bicycle. I took it home. It was amazing. I'd never had anything new in my life like this. I'm the youngest of 4 brothers. You know, there's all 4 brothers. Hand-me-downs, right? I got this Schwinn 10-speed. I rode it everywhere. It was amazing. People in the neighborhood are jealous because I got the brand new 10-speed. It was amazing. And I enjoyed that bicycle. I loved that bicycle. It was so satisfying. And I used it for quite a long time. And then one day, somebody stole it. Somebody stole it. And, you know, I was a poor kid. There was no getting a new one. I was just out. And I learned a lesson that day about finding satisfaction. Is that ultimately, if you look for finding ultimate satisfaction in things like that, they can be lost. They are temporary. And God is teaching me and has continued to teach me through the years that we need to look for something deeper. Now, God can restore those things. And he does. And sometimes he takes 50 years or more to restore, or even eternity. But where do we find our true satisfaction? That's what I want to talk to you today about in the book of Revelation. Because believe it or not, the book of Revelation is about finding true satisfaction. Everybody's looking for it. You are. I know you are. All right? We heard at the very beginning of this book, Revelation chapter 1, verse 3, blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep what is written in it. So there is blessing for those who read and follow this book. More than the book of Revelation is more than about setting end times, last days, timelines, and chronologies, or trying to identify the Antichrist, or matching the latest news headlines to obscure verses in the book of Revelation. Rather, it is about finding true satisfaction. It is experience the blessing of God. That's what it's really about. Now, we're going to come today to Revelation 17 and 18. We've made our way a long way through this book. And we're going to come to some unusual symbolism, some trippy, sort of wild symbols today. But there's an important point in all these symbols about finding true satisfaction. So come with me. And in these symbols, we're going to find some historical realities, some prophecies of future events, and also some spiritual truths for us to take home. First, historical realities. We're going to learn through these symbols that the first century Christians were a tiny minority who faced tremendous temptations to compromise their faith and immense pressure to conform to the ways of their culture. And guess what? Times really haven't changed, have they? It's still the same for today. Then there's also prophecies of future events, which these symbols point out there will be a day when Antichrist and his allies will oppose God, but Christ and his people will joyfully triumph in the end. We're going to learn that. And also, we're going to learn, most importantly, spiritual truths for us today. And that is that true satisfaction is found not in the city of Babylon, and we'll learn what that stands for today, but rather we're going to find true satisfaction in the kingdom of Jesus. Let's go there. Chapter 17, verse 1. We're ongoing with this. These bowls of judgment have been poured out. Then one of the 7 angels who had 7 bowls came and spoke with me. Come, I will show you the judgment, the justice on the notorious prostitute who is seated on many waters, which stands for the many nations, the notorious prostitute. Now that's a kind translation. You ought to see it in the King James, all right? Notorious prostitute. The kings of the earth committed sexual immorality with her, and those who live on the earth became drunk on the wine of her sexual immorality. I told you there were some trippy images, and we got them already. We've got this notorious prostitute seated on the beast, all right? Now, who is this notorious prostitute? She, in the symbolism, stands for a cheap and evil imitation of the devoted bride of Christ, the church. She is not true and faithful. She is cheap and evil and vulgar. But she is alluring, she is tempting, because she seems to offer true satisfaction. And many are taken in by her in the culture. It will be obvious very shortly in this passage that this woman represents cultures, ideologies, nations, movements that are opposed to God, to Christ, and to his people, but who seek the allegiance of people's hearts. She and they are totally out of alignment with the ways of Jesus. But the world is drunk on her unfaithfulness. They have cooperated with her and her ideologies and beliefs in every way. And they, frankly, have had a blast getting smashed. They are hammered, they are out of control, and they are unaware of what is happening in their lives. They've been totally captivated by this wayward woman. In the first century and now, they've gone along with her values, her morals, her worldview. She is the spirit of the age. She is the predominant worldview, but she is evil. Verse 3, then he carried me away in the spirit to a wilderness. There are moments when you need to get away. And in the wilderness, the Spirit of God has John on a retreat of sorts, because he and us sometimes need to see the world for what it really is. You see, when you get a little detachment from it, you see it more clearly. Otherwise, it just seems normal to you. You become accustomed to it. The notorious prostitute just becomes a part of your everyday life. You become blinded to its evils. But John is going to receive a vision that clarifies reality. He says, I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. This beast we met back in Revelation chapter 13, who is this Antichrist. Antichrist throughout the ages and the final Antichrist who is to come. He is opposed to God. He imitates Christ. He tries to look like Christ, but he's evil and wrong. He was covered with blasphemous names, pretending to be Christ, and had 7 heads and 10 horns. He shall stand for authority. A lot of people following, a lot of nations going along. The woman, though, look at her. She was dressed in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold and jewels and pearls. The beast, obviously Antichrist, the spirit of Antichrist, opposed to Jesus, ugly, hideous. But the woman, not so. She is dressed as royalty. She is beautiful, alluring, fascinating, rich, sophisticated. She has the wow factor. This image is an incredible contrast of ugliness and beauty. It truly is Beauty and the Beast. And many see her as appealing and seductive and tempting. And it's easy to get drawn into her. She seems to offer so much satisfaction. And most people have drunk her wine. But there are a tiny minority of Christians in their day who are trying to hold strong and faithful to Jesus and be the bride of Christ. Now look, it says she had a golden cup in her hand. Oh, that looks good. A golden cup, it just looks like it should hold something just beautiful and wonderful. It's so amazing and beautiful. But the golden cup in her hand was filled with everything detestable and with the impurities of her prostitution. It was just filled with filth and evil and wrongdoing. And on her forehead was written a name, a mystery. Not everybody can see this mystery. It's lost on most people, but it's revealed to John in the wilderness. He can see it, what she really is, the mystery. She is Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the detestable things of the earth. There's no love in her. There's no devotion to her like a true bride. It's just cheap and degrading and lonely and lost and hopeless and temporary. Years ago, I saw a movie. Most of you have never seen it, Cannonball Run. But in this movie, Burt Reynolds sings a song, sort of supposed to be a love song, and he says these words: "Let's do something cheap and superficial. Let's do something we might regret. Let's do something shabby and insensitive, because this might be the only chance we get." And that is basically the love song of this woman. She has a golden cup that looks interesting and rich and luxurious, but it's filled with disgusting dregs and filth. Revelation is unveiling what the world is really like. Beyond the carefully crafted images and the Photoshop likenesses is the reality of souls. She has a headband. Now, in the ancient world, if a prostitute or a harlot had just lost all sensitivity and didn't even care if anyone recognized her, she would actually wear a headband with her name on it and listing the services that she offered, just in public. This is what she does. Babylon the Great. What's that mean? Well, Babylon, the name, it's an ancient city. It's near where Baghdad, Iraq would be today. It no longer exists. It's been destroyed. But the name comes from Babel in Genesis chapter 11. And we don't have time to go all there, but Babel was a civilization that decided they didn't need God. Instead, they would go it on their own, make up their own rules, and make a real name for themselves. So they cast off all restraints, and they rejected the Lord. And eventually, this Babel became many kingdoms, and particularly the kingdom of Babylon, which became the archenemy of Israel. Babylon persecuted Israel, conquered them, vanquished them, destroyed their culture, and carried them off into captivity. Unfortunately, many of the people of Israel were led astray by the values of Babylon. It was atheistic or polytheistic, totalitarian regimes. And ever since then, Babylon has stood for not just that kingdom, but all the kingdoms of the earth opposed to the one true God. Totalitarian regimes, empires, and ideologies opposed to the ways of God. So Babylon is just a code word for any movement, ideology that opposes God, but pretends to be God himself. She is the mother of prostitutes. She's not only a prostitute herself, she gives birth to all the others that lead people astray. Then I saw the woman was drunk on the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses to Jesus. And when I saw her, I was greatly astonished. She has taken a liking to the execution of believers in Jesus. This is how she gets her thrills, by killing Christians. And he sees her and he's greatly astonished. John, in this vision, is astonished. And why is he astonished? Why is he so surprised? Because God had said, I will show you the judgment of the notorious prostitute, and all he's seen is a beautiful woman. Many artists have tried to depict it. Here's one. A beautiful woman on a hideous beast, and she's killing Christians. And that doesn't look like much of a judgment to him. So he's astonished. And he's a little bit drawn in by her too, because she is so beautiful and so alluring. Here's the first principle I want to give to you today. Cultures and ideologies opposed to God can be extremely attractive. But ultimately, if they do not align with the ways of Jesus, they are ultimately evil and harmful to us. This is a warning to us, this vision. Oh, they look good. They look fine. They promise so much. They sound good. They offer satisfaction. They have great marketing and PR. They rule on social media. They attract followers by the millions. But if they promote a worldview and a way of life totally contrary to the way of Jesus, they're evil and harmful to us. They are narcissistic, entitled, immoral, confused, greedy, angry, lustful, authoritarian, controlling. Ideologies and cultures and governments and movements that promise so much, but they are evil and only bring harm and hurt and disruption and destruction and depravity and disappointment in their wake. So be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful of being captivated and having your heart stolen by Babylon, by worldviews, by ideologies contrary to the gentle ways of Jesus, to the pure ways of Christ. Then the angel said to me, why are you astonished? You're even taking it in a little bit. John, I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns that carries her. And what follows in 8 to 12, which we will not take time to do this morning, is a very complicated description of a progression and coalition of powers opposed to God. Most likely it describes historical kingdoms and rulers that will one day lead to the final stage of the many evil and anti-God, anti-Christ rulers and of false teachers down through history, and in the last days, a final Antichrist who will arise. And if you'd like to learn more about that, please come to Digging Deeper tomorrow night when we'll look at answering tough questions about the justice of God and look at this passage more thoroughly, Revelation 15 through 18. But nevertheless, all these movements have one purpose. Verse 13, and they give their power and authority to the beast. They all serve antichrist or these anti-Christian ideologies. They will make war against the Lamb. They will oppose the Lamb, but the Lamb will conquer them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Oh yes, they are all in for the beast and for antichrist. They are collaborators with him and co-conspirators. They follow the ways contrary to Jesus. And since the followers of Jesus won't go along, we will need to oppose them and make war against them and perhaps even attempt to destroy them. Here's a second principle. The spirit of darkness, these ideologies and movements, totalitarian regimes, first tempts you by offering satisfaction. That's the first approach. Tempt you by alluring you to try to go along with its ways. But then when that doesn't work, they turn on you and they persecute you if you don't conform. Babylon, the spirit of Babylon, is at first a tempter, but then it becomes a persecutor. That's the way Babylon always works. Both ways, temptation and persecution, seek to gain the allegiance of our hearts, either willingly because we give them our hearts or unwillingly by brute force. But the good news is the Lamb conquers them. His sacrificial love and mercy demonstrated most fully on the cross and in his resurrection overcomes and outlasts all the kingdoms of this world. Because Jesus has so much more to offer us. His mercy, his kindness, his grace, his purity, his power, his wisdom, his forgiveness, his hope, joy, and peace are so much greater and offer true satisfaction. So here's the third principle. Expect fierce opposition from Babylon, but Jesus' kingdom will prevail. The kingdom of Jesus outlasted the Roman Empire easily. They no longer worship the emperors. They're gone and buried. And the church of Jesus goes on. But in the moment, in the first century, it looked like it couldn't possibly conquer the Roman Empire. But it did. And the kingdom of Jesus continues to conquer. And Jesus will outlast all the other kings and lords and kingdoms forever. We need to believe that when it doesn't look like it in the moment. The church endures, and everyone eventually will bow the knee to Jesus. That's the story of Revelation. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will conquer them because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And those with him are called, chosen, and faithful. This is where we come in. This is our calling. We are called to follow Jesus and to walk in his steps. We are chosen to be different in this world. We're not chosen to be like everybody else. We're chosen to be salt and light, the hope of the world. We're to be faithful to Jesus and to a completely different set of values and priorities. And we're not just to go along. Instead, we're to shine like lights in the darkness, hold forth the word of life to our neighbors. We're to love our neighbors, this minority of believers. We're to love even our enemies and call them to the love of Jesus, no matter what they do to us. Guys, we've been talking for months about the Good for All conference, and I just want to again encourage you. This is what this conference is all about. It's about learning how to live in a culture that is often hostile or oppositional or out of alignment with the ways of Jesus. Bob Goff's going to talk to us about not getting distracted from all the other things that could take our hearts away. Hosanna Wong, incredible speaker. She lives in San Francisco, California, and in that culture, which is really hostile to Christianity in many respects, and certainly out of step, she's going to talk about how not to save the world, but instead how to be an influence in a place that's difficult. And then Rebecca McLaughlin really is one of the world's foremost apologists or defenders of the Christian faith. And she's going to be talking about secular creeds, things that are commonly taught in our culture. How can we build bridges to them, but also present a positive alternative in the gospel of Jesus Christ? I hope that you'll take advantage of it. And perhaps some of you, maybe you'll be able to go, or maybe you even won't be able to go, but you could provide a scholarship. Some of you that maybe you've been blessed, today I would encourage you, just take out your community card, and on your community card, write your name in there and your contact information. And if you'd like information about how you could provide a scholarship, perhaps to someone underprivileged, to a pastor from a small church, or to a person who's from a minority, or an underprivileged person, you could provide a scholarship or many scholarships then. Just write S on your community card, and we'll get in touch with you about how you might be able to do that. So John goes on. He also said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute was seated are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. In other words, this is pervasive, this worldview of Babylon. Lots of people are taken in. The 10 horns you saw and the beast will hate the prostitute. Did I read that right? So the beast hates the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, devour her flesh, and burn her up with fire. What? Weren't expecting that, were you? Eventually, he's telling us, evil turned on itself. These people, they don't love each other. This beast and this Babylon kingdom, they don't love each other. They hate each other. They're just in it for themselves. They're after power and greed and lust. But eventually, evil, wickedness can't help but turn in on itself because that's its nature. It's evil. And so they even hate each other. And eventually, evil consumes even Babylon. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his plan by having one purpose, and to give their kingdom to the beast, that Antichrist, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman you saw is the great city that has the royal power over the kings of the earth. Now, when the people in the first century heard this, they said, this for sure has to be Rome, the Roman Empire. And they were right. It was Rome. But it wasn't just Rome. It was Rome and all the empires that have come and fallen since that day. They were right. But it's every nation and government and movement and ideology that exalted itself over the Lord. And it culminates in the last days. Evil, here's the fourth principle, is self-destructive and eventually disintegrates because God is in control. He says, God put it in their heart. Don't worry about this. God's in control. God will rule. He'll reign. In other words, when you see this sort of stuff happening in the world, don't freak out. Don't lose it. No matter what, remain calm. God is in control. Babylon was very attractive, persuasive, alluring. But in the end, Babylon always shows its true colors. It is violent, it is greedy, it is abusive, it's a villain, a bully, an exploiter, a cheater, a liar, an oppressor. Now, we turn to chapter 18. And in the Old Testament, filled in the Old Testament, there are many prophets who sing what are called prophetic doom songs. They were kind of the we will rock you songs of the Old Testament. When God finally comes in judgment and justice against all the bullies and oppressors and persecutors. In some ways, chapter 18 is the dramatic turning point of the entire book of Revelation, when the bully Babylon is finally taken out. Do you remember Back to the Future? Remember Biff? He was always picking on George McFly. And they're at the prom, and it doesn't look good for George McFly. And they're out in the parking lot in the middle of the prom, and finally something happens. Do you remember? Well, we got to watch.
Leave him alone! Let him go! Let him go!
Are you okay?
Who is that guy?
It's George McFly.
Can we cheer? Yeah. The bully gets knocked out. This is not revenge. This is justice against the oppressor. And chapter 18 has the same theme. After this, I saw another angel with great authority coming down from heaven, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. He called out in a mighty voice, "It has fallen. Babylon the Great has fallen," predicting and prophesying the eventual doom. He is knocked out. It is still in the future, but it is certain. Looking forward to her doom. The kings of the earth, it says, committed sexual immorality. The merchants of the earth have grown wealthy from her sensuality and excess. Then I heard another voice from heaven, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins or receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes." Here's the fifth principle. Our role is not to be seduced by Babylon, but to remain fearless and faithful, because God has something better for us. Don't go in for the cheap imitations. Look to Jesus. Look to his ways. Look to his truth. Don't be afraid. I offer you something that will last forever. For Babylon, she says in her heart, "I sit as a queen." She thinks she can never be destroyed. She says, "I am a queen." In reality, she is a cheap prostitute. I am not a widow. I'm not needy. I'm not poor. I'm not sad. And I will never see grief. Babylon always thinks, the totalitarian regime always thinks they will always be happy, always be rich, always be prosperous. Their kingdom will never end. But over and over and over again, they do. And over again, God has offered them mercy and forgiveness and grace in Jesus. They have not only refused his gospel, they have mocked it. They have laughed at it. And for this reason, her plagues will come in just one day, death and grief and famine and fire, because the Lord God who judges her is mighty. And then we get, in the remaining of this chapter 18, a lament and dirge. Look in verse 9 quickly now. The kings of the earth, they weep and mourn. Woe, 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 the great city Babylon, the mighty city. For in a single hour your judgment has come. Verse 11, the merchants of the earth, they weep and mourn because no one buys their cargo any longer. Even their mourning is selfish and greedy. They're not sad about Babylon. They're sad because they're not rich anymore. No one will buy our stuff. We got rich off of them, off of Babylon, but now we're broke. They list off all the things they can no longer sell in verses 11, 12, and 13. And it ends with the last of their cargo. Slaves, human lives. The ultimate oppression is when human beings are sold as cargo. And God says, no, I come against that. I judge that. God brings justice. That's our hope. And slaves were 20% of the population of the Roman Empire at the time, including many believers in Jesus. And God says, I got your back. And every shipmaster, seafarer, and sailors, and all that do business by the sea, all these other business leaders, who was like the great city, and they weep and mourn. Principle 6, Babylon comes to a tragic and sudden collapse. It cannot endure and only disappoints. That's the lesson of Babylon. In these chapters, God's counsel to us is not so much, don't be bad like Babylon. Rather, he pleads with us like a father. Why would you give your life over to something or someone who is so disappointing, so pathetic, so superficial, so temporary? The kingdom of Jesus has already outlasted Rome and other empires, and Jesus will reign long after they are all dead, buried, and gone, and forgotten. Verse 20, rejoice over her, heaven, and you saints, apostles, and prophets, because God has pronounced on her the judgment she passed on you. Oh yes, she judged you, she maligned you, she belittled you, but now justice comes. This is joy over justice, not revenge. Justice has been served, and the people rejoicing here are not armchair critics. They're not social media personalities. The people rejoicing here are believers, real people who have been persecuted, executed, abused, raped, exploited, maligned, hated, and despised. These are the genuine followers of Jesus who have never sought to do anything for anyone but to give them the love and the hope of eternal life. And they have been so mistreated. Then a mighty angel picked up a large stone, like a large millstone, and threw it into the sea, saying, in this way Babylon, the great city, will be thrown down violently and never be found again. All this will happen because your merchants were the nobility of the earth. They took advantage of other people and their miseries, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. You led so many people astray with lies and with evil. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and the saints, and all those slaughtered on the earth. These were the killers of countless followers of the Lamb, Jesus Christ. Chapter 19. And after this, I heard something like the loud voice of a vast multitude in heaven saying, Hallelujah. Salvation, glory, and power belong to our God, because his judgments are true and righteous. Here's principle number 7. Lasting joy is found in the God of truth and goodness. In the end, there are really only two kingdoms. It's a choice before you about where you will find true satisfaction: the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of Jesus. It's rough going for a while, yeah, for sure, but in the end we win. And today, everybody here, you want to find true satisfaction and lasting joy and contentment. And my question is, what are you chasing to get it? I'm reminded in this passage in chapters 17 and 18 and the first of 19 of a little passage that John wrote earlier when he wrote a letter to the churches. In 1 John chapter 2, he wrote these words, and these are kind of in letter form summarizing everything that we've talked about today. Do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you don't have the love of the Father in you. Don't love the world. Don't love the moral atmosphere that we breathe every day. Don't love its priorities and its values and its attitudes and its actions that are not aligned with Jesus. Don't treasure them and regard them as precious. And don't be captivated by them or seek them for your satisfaction. Because when you love the world, you crowd out God and the things that last and the true treasures of your soul. He says in verse 16, for the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but they're from the world. They won't last. They'll dissatisfy you. They'll make you unhappy in the end. He's saying, it's Babylon, baby. It's Babylon. Don't go for it. Don't fall for it. And this world is fading away, along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. C.S. Lewis once said, dear children, the last hour is here. You've heard that the Antichrist is coming. This follows right after this verse about love of the world. He says the Antichrist is coming, and already many such Antichrists have appeared. For this we know that the last hour has come. C.S. Lewis had a great quote. He said, if I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world. The Antichrist is coming, he says, in the first century. And already many such Antichrists have appeared. The Babylons, the beasts, have come and gone, and they continue to appear and will appear. By this we know the last hour has come. It's quite a statement, isn't it? John is saying, if this is the last hour of your life, how will you live your life? Where will you find lasting, true satisfaction? Today is 9/11. 21 years ago, today, this morning, a young man named Todd Beamer was on Flight 93, which had been overtaken by terrorists bent on evil and destruction. And to attempt to save their lives, Todd and other passengers decided they were willing to lay down their own lives if necessary in order to oppose that evil. I want us to show us just a short clip from a dramatization of this final cell phone call he made to Lisa Jefferson, the cell phone operator, that day on the emergency line, when Todd Beamer calls her and is talking with her just before they attempted to resist the terrorists. Let's watch it together.
Lisa, do me a favor.
Of course.
Say the Lord's Prayer with me.
Right now, Todd? Okay. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Lead us not into temptation,
But deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom,
and the power, and the glory, forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen.
You ready?
Okay. Put this guy down. He's gonna be last.
Let's roll.
An incredibly powerful moment. Guys, most of us are never, ever going to face circumstances like that. But it's a good reminder on 9/11 about the power of those who are willing to be faithful and fearless. That's what the book of Revelation is all about. Most of us are never going to be in that situation. But this week, today, I want to close with a story of a little more ordinary situation. Francis Chan, pastor who wrote a book called Crazy Love, recalled a story of a young woman. Her name was Brooke Bronkowski. He writes, Brooke Bronkowski was a beautiful 14-year-old girl who was in love with Jesus. When she was in junior high, she started a Bible study on her campus. She spent her babysitting money on Bibles so she could give them out to her non-Christian friends. Youth pastors who heard about her brought her boxes of Bible to give away. Brooke wrote the following essay when she was about 12 years old. It will give you an idea of the kind of girl that she was. She entitled the essay, "Since I Have My Life Before Me." She writes, "I'll live my life to the fullest. I'll be happy. I'll brighten up. I will be more joyful than I have ever been. I will be kind to others. I will loosen up. I will tell others about Christ. I will go on adventures and I will change the world. I will be bold and not change who I really am. I will have no troubles, but instead help others with their troubles. You see, I will be one of those people who live to be history makers at a young age. Oh, I'll have moments, good and bad, but I will wipe away the bad and only remember the good. In fact, that's all I remember. Just good moments, nothing in between, just living my life to the fullest. I'll be one of those people who go somewhere with a mission, an awesome plan, a world-changing plan, and nothing will hold me back. I'll set an example for others. I will pray for direction. I have my life before me. I will give others the joy I have, and God will give me more joy. I will do everything God tells me to do. I will follow the footsteps of God. I will do my best." During her freshman year in high school, Brooke was in a car accident while driving to the movies. Her life on earth ended when she was 14 years old, but her impact did not. 1,500 people attended Brooke's memorial service. People from her public high school read poems she had written about her love for God, and everyone spoke about her example and her joy. Francis Chan said, "I shared the gospel and invited those who wanted to know Jesus to come up and give their lives to him. There were at least 200 students on their knees at the front of the church praying for salvation. And ushers gave a Bible to each of them. They were the Bibles that Brooke had kept in her garage, planning to give out to all of her unsaved friends. And in one day, Brooke led more people to the Lord than most people ever will. In her brief 14 years on earth, Brooke was faithful and fearless for Christ. Her short life was not wasted, and the words from her essay seem prophetic. You see, she wrote, "I'll be one of those people who live to be history makers at a young age." Father in heaven, speak now to any heart that needs to cross that line of faith. Father, maybe there's someone here today, maybe many, who've been looking to Babylon, to the culture, to the values, to the worldviews, and they need to come to you. Some for the first time, and find that you got so much more for them in Jesus. I pray right where they sit that they'll say yes to you. I give my life to you, Jesus, right now. Some to rededicate themselves to you. If that's you today, would you just slip up your hand and say, "That's me"? Just go ahead. Any of you here? Yeah, that's great. Great to see that. And for all of us, Lord, just a great reminder. Great reminder. We are called, we are chosen, we are faithful. Help us to be that in our world and to love the people around us and to do everything we can to present to them in the most winsome and beautiful way what the kingdom of Jesus is really all about. And everybody agreed and said, amen. Everybody on your feet, let's worship the Lord together. If you'd like to pray with somebody or for somebody today, or you'd like to talk to somebody, there'll be some leaders at the cross afterwards. But let's worship the Lord and thank him. He has an everlasting kingdom, and he's so much greater. God bless y'all.